Good morning, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order. April 1st, 2025. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call according to Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councilors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. The chair may ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time the phone lines will be unmuted. If you'd like to speak, please state your name. Individuals will be allotted 5 minutes to speak or 10 minutes for a group as per procedural bylaw. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at lunchtime, noon, where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with the quality of the calls. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to this meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are deemed to consider, any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per MGA Section 198. Thank you for your cooperation and understanding. I do believe we have a couple of councillors participating remotely and with notice, and we will call a roll call vote, and then I'll ask the remote ones as well if they have access to eScribe so we can use that. So roll call vote. Councillor Priest.
I'm here.
Councillor Bigger.
Here.
Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Councillor Laursen. Here. Councillor Kester.
I'm here. I also have eScribe.
Thank you. Reeve Link.
Good morning, and I have eScribe as well.
Perfect. And for the public, eScribe is an electronic procedure. You'll be able to see our votes on the screen live as it goes. And myself, Chair, Deputy Reeve Klassen is present. We will move to the adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions, deletions?
Deputy Reeve Klassen, I have a requested addition.
Go ahead.
I'm requesting consideration to ratify my attendance at the Calgary Region Hydrogen Hub launch on March 21st. It would be for a half-day per diem and mileage.
Okay. 6.1, business arising? No, that wouldn't be it. 8.5, look into administration.
Through the chair, just Brian from administration, you could put that under 7.1.1.
Okay, subsection, okay. 7.1.1. So is a request to add in addition to the agenda. Anything further? Motion to accept.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
Motion's on the floor. Any questions? Call the question on eScribe. Has it come up for anybody else? It says voting in progress. I don't have anything. Click on that. Okay. Oh, perfect. And that's carried. Looking, I'll move us to recess from the regular council meeting so we can go into a public hearings. Motion's on the floor. All in favor? Call the question. Sorry. How come it comes up in flashes right away? Disappears. Sorry, we're having technical issues, some of us.
Just close out and go back in.
As soon as it-
But yeah, just click on that when that happens,
Click on which?
on this voting. in
Yeah.
progress. Oh, it's just doing it again.
It disappears right away.
Okay, let's sign out then and
Okay.
go back in. I don't know what
Just a glitch in the matrix. We're getting her figured out here. And that's carried. I'll call the public hearing to order for 25-03. Do I do all of them, the 25-304, or just one at a time?
Just one at a time, and the chair would also want to read out the process for the public hearing. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. This is for the public hearing. As per section 192 of procedure bylaw 25-02, the public hearing will be conducted in the following order. Staff report by administration, presentation by the applicant, presentations by the public in support of the proposal, presentations by the public in opposition to the proposal, rebuttal, presentation by the applicant limited only to comments read or heard in opposition to the proposal, final questions of administration, and a council motion to close the public hearing. The applicant will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Any individuals supporting or opposing the proposal will have up to 5 minutes to speak, and any groups of individuals will have up to 10 minutes to speak. The applicant will then have a maximum of 10 minutes to present their rebuttal. If there are any questions relating to this process, please refer to our procedure bylaw. Can administration please verify that the notice of public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Through the chair, yes, we can.
Thank you. Is there any written submissions that are not in the public package?
No.
Anyone that would come to the mic, just a reminder, please state your name and the address for the record. Go ahead.
Good morning, Council. Stefan Kuntz on behalf of administration. You will note at the top of the page it says Jessica. She sends her regards today. She's not feeling well, so I'm pinch hitting today. Hopefully I do her work justice. So this is bylaw 2025-03, which proposes to redesignate a 1.77 hectare portion of land from the Agriculture General District to Community Service District. The lands are located approximately 7.5 kilometers southwest of the hamlet of Nameka, immediately northeast of the intersection of Highway 817 and Township Road 230. The application proposes, the application proposes the redesignation of lands from Ag General to Community Service to allow for boundary adjustment of the parcel, allowing space to develop a ball diamond and increase parking to the existing community hall located on Lot 1. Lot 1 is accessed by an existing gravel approach from Township Road 230. Lot 2 is also accessed by Township Road 230 by 2 gravel approaches. Approach inspections may be required at the subdivision stage. Water and wastewater servicing for the community hall is located on site on Lot 1. Lot 2 is undeveloped land use for agriculture. No change of land use or development is proposed there, and there is no existing servicing infrastructure. The proposal is consistent with the applicable statutory and non-statutory plans, particularly with the municipal development plan objectives regarding support for community halls and gathering places. The proposal results in 2 parcels within the quarter section with no new parcels created. The proposal is also consistent with the agricultural policies of the MDP, which aim to minimize the fragmentation of agricultural lands. The proposed parcel size is consistent with the site regulations of the Community Service District, which is an appropriate district for the intended use of the lands. And notice hearing was sent in accordance with the Municipal Government Act. And as there were no concerns and the application is consistent with county statutory policy, administration recommends approval as per the motions provided. This concludes our presentation, and we are available for questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the presentation? Is there a applicant in the room that wants to present?
Let's put a map up here for you. Just state your name.
Welcome.
Good morning. I thank you for taking this application and moving it through. It's been a while coming for the Karen Hill communities. My name is Keith Clayton, sorry. I'm on 232070 Range Road 255. We've probably been trying for 10 years to purchase land from the Flowers to expand the site so we can put a ball diamond in that's competitive in size to allow both kids and adults to use. Right now, I've had a rule on if you play ball at our diamond, you're out if you put it over the fence because it's too close. And that's not a good way to run a ball game. But anyway, the Flowers were selling their land, and we approached them, and they've agreed to give us 4.4 acres. That allows us to put in a 300-foot ball diamond consistent with the regulations. And it also allows us some room to get people, when you have a fairly good-sized gathering, to get off the road and be a lot more safe. So I thank you for consideration of this application, and that's about it. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Is there any presentations by the public in support of this proposal? I have to ask this three times. Is there any presentations by the public in support of the proposal, either online or in the room? Third and final time, presentations by the public in support of this proposal. Is there any presentations by the public in opposition of this proposal? Second time, any presentations by the public in opposition of this proposal? Third and final, any presentations by the public in opposition of this proposal? There's no need for a rebuttal by the applicant because there's nothing submitted. Any final questions of administration from council? Seeking a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to, that council moves to close public hearing for bylaw 2025-03.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Any further questions? I will call the question. And that is carried. Go ahead.
I'll move the council move first reading of bylaw 2025-03. This being a bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate plus or minus 1.77 hectares within a portion of southwest of 22325 west of the 4th meridian from agricultural general district to community service district as shown on the attached Schedule A forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Just noticed a small error on the actual bylaw. It says 2025-05 on page 16. So I think it should be 03, that's all.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Question administration, would the motion have to say as amended, or is that just context?
Council didn't notice the typographical error. You might as well just make it as amended.
As amended. Councillor Larson, are you okay with it making it as amended?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Motion is as amended on the floor. Thanks for the clarification. I will call the question. And that's carried.
I'll move the council move second reading of bylaw 2025-03.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. This is as amended. We don't have to say that again, do we? Just once.
Oh, okay, you can say it. Just
Say it as amended.
As amended.
Perfect. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. That's carried.
I move that council grants permission to hold third and final reading of amended bylaw 2025-03.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question. That is carried unanimously.
I'll move the council moves third reading of bylaw 2025-03 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Reichert. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That is carried. We move on to bylaw 2025-04. Needs council motion to open the public hearing.
I move that council moves to open public hearing for bylaw 2025-04.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. I'll call the question. And that is carried. This will follow the same procedure as the script before, so are there any written submissions that are not in the, no, sorry. Can you verify that public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Through the chair, yes, we can.
Is there any written submissions that are not in the public package?
Through the chair, yes, there are 3. There's 1 email from the applicant and then 2 from residents.
Okay. Have they been distributed to council?
Not yet. I have copies available if you.
Okay. Are you able to, are they thick? Are we able to scan them in and put them?
I've sent them through, so we should be able to display them on the.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Does council need them read in, or if they're all scanned in?
Do the applicant one first? Thank you.
Just looking for process, should we submit them? At,
We should read them.
Read them?
They
Okay.
will be available after in
Okay.
the supplemental, just online in our council package, but we should have administration just read them.
okay, perfect. They're being circulated to us at the moment, and I'll ask that you please read them at this time.
All right, no problem. So the email from the applicant dated March 25th. I, Jascarat Secone, applied to redesignate LU 2024, that should say 018, on my property located at the redacted address. I've been circulating the area and speaking to the community for a long time. I heard from locals over and over that they need a restaurant and laundromat in the town since they don't have any dine-in or specific place to spend time with their loved ones. Moreover, a majority of people were demanding laundromat in the town to refrain from commuting to Strathmore. The bay is vast for laundromat usage only, and from a business standpoint, I would like to seek approval for redesignating the land so I can develop a suite behind the laundromat and utilize the property efficiently. Since I have certain buildings in the town, I may use the property for my personal or commercial use in the town. I would like to make the buildings back in better shape. I've already invested a lot to put this building back into shape after a tornado hit. I need your support to make the main street look good. You'll enhance safety on the main street by opening the doors of abandoned buildings. Thank you for your hard work, dedication, and service to the community. Sincerely, Jascarat Secone. The next one's from Navdeep Kaur. This is dated March 24th. Good afternoon, Jessica. I received a letter in my mailbox, PO Box 413, regarding Hamlet Commercial. I'm in favor of bringing more business in this town. Thank you. And then one from the Gleason District Community Center. Yeah, that's it. Dated March 10th. We support the application to redesignate to Hamlet Mixed Use Restaurant and Laundromat on the Main Street, Gleason, Alberta. We need more businesses and development in the town, which will create more opportunities for the residents with options. We would like to see the empty buildings occupied with new businesses rather than a hangout spot for loitering. Feel free to reach out to us for more opinion. Sincerely, and then it lists the members. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Please proceed with your report.
No problem, thank you. So Stefan from administration again, this time with bylaw 2025-04. This proposes to redesignate lots 8 and 9, block 3, plan 249B from Hamlet Commercial District to Hamlet Mixed Use District. The lands are located within the hamlet of Gleason, 8 meters northwest of the intersection of 4th Avenue and Main Street. The application proposes the redesignation to allow for the development of a restaurant, laundromat, and residential suite within the units. The parcel is accessed by Main Street to the southwest and an alley to the northeast. Water and wastewater servicing for the parcel are provided through existing municipal pipe services. The proposal is consistent with the applicable statutory and non-statutory plans, particularly the commercial policies within the municipal development plan. These encourage commercial uses that support community development, provide employment opportunities, and diversify the local economy. Further, commercial policies support infill and intensification as a means of promoting the efficient use of land and infrastructure. Regarding cumulative development impacts, the parcel is an existing commercial site with adjacent land uses predominantly commercial and mixed use. The operations of the proposed business are not expected to create any additional dust, odor, noise, or lighting. The proposed parcel size is consistent with the site regulations of the Hamlet Mixed Use District, which is appropriate district for the intended use of the lands. The uses are permitted and discretionary within the Hamlet Mixed Use District. Notice of the hearing was sent in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, and the submissions received we dealt with earlier. As such, administration recommends approval in accordance with the motions provided. This concludes our presentation, and happy to take any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on the report? Is there an applicant that wants to present today? If you want to, sure. Yeah, come forward. Please state your name and the location of the business.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jaskira Singh, and I'm the owner of location 418 Main Street, Gleason. I'm the applicant to putting this application in. Thank you very much for forwarding this application. I just want to say thank you because I already sent an email. Yeah, I've spent a lot already because these buildings were in really bad shape. So just want to invest some money for the convenience of the local residents, and it is hard as being a small businessman to go invest outside of city, and I don't know what's the risk if it's gonna go well or not, but still I want to take a risk. So thank you very much for your support and service. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Is there any presentations by the public in support of this proposal? Please come forward, state your name.
Hi, I'm Mike Jr., the president of the community hall. I would say yes, let's go ahead. He has been very good in the community. His wife now is part of our board, and whenever we need anything, like for the car show, the holiday train, they are the first ones up. They are donating, and they are a very good part of the community. I would say let's bring it in. We need the business.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other presentations by the public in support of this proposal? Third time, any presentations by the public in support of this proposal? Any presentations by the public in opposition to this proposal? Again, question, any presentations by the public in opposition of this proposal? Third and final time, presentations by the public in opposition of the proposal. Hearing none, there's no need for a rebuttal. And any final questions of administration? Everybody's quiet this morning. Seeking a motion to close public hearing.
I'll move that council moves to close public hearing for bylaw 2025-04.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. And that's carried. We have a few motions in front of us. Go ahead, Councillor Bigger.
That council moves first reading of bylaw 2025-04, this being the bylaw for the purpose of amending land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate lot 8 to 9, block 3, plan 249 from Hamlet Commercial District to Hamlet Mixed Use District as shown in the attached Schedule A forming part of this bylaw.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? I'll call the question. And that's carried. Council's wishes.
Deputy Reeve Klassen, I can move second reading.
Perfect. Thank you. Motion's on the floors. Any discussions on that motion? Call the question. And that's carried.
I'll move the council grants permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2025-04.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That is carried unanimously. Councillor Laprise.
I'll move that council moves third reading of bylaw 2025-04.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion?
I want to congratulate. The only way that we can get our hamlets to come back is we have to encourage entrepreneurs to take their own money and work on and bring these ideas forward. So thank you very much for doing this. I'm really looking forward to a success on your business.
I'll call the question. And that is carried. So we have to close them. We've done that. So we don't, 3.3 we have to do after the presentations, correct?
So just, we do have a presentation set for 9:15 just for the budget.
Yep.
And we booked that budget presentation ahead of the tax rate bylaw just because that's the requirement of the MGA. So yeah, hopefully that we can move to that appointment.
Okay, so we have to, I'll just ask, is there any notices of motion? Not seeing any, we'll move forward to our 9:15 presentation. Sorry to make you wait. I figured I'd get both public hearings done. Thank you to the audience for attending. I don't know, Joel, you get to the mic and they all leave.
I have to use him for other things, I think.
Note to self. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Joel Chasson from Financial Services here to talk through the budget, the 2025 through 2027 final operating budget and 2025 through 2029 final capital budgets. So just for the public's interest, to give a little bit of background, the 2025 interim budgets and the package was passed by Council on December 17th, 2024. In there was a comprehensive budget package with all the details, and it's available on the county website, as will the final budget be available once that's approved. In addition to that, at the November 26th, 2024 meeting, the Committee of the Whole had a comprehensive discussions and a package provided that had all of the details for each of the capital projects. And so those are available as well in the agenda package for that day, if the public is interested. And finally, last week, there was an update and the draft final budget for operating capital was discussed at the Committee of the Whole meeting on March 27th. And that brings us to today. So the final budget, as discussed briefly last week, it lets us bring forward some amendments to the capital plan based on the final 2024 results. If there's projects, for example, on capital that need to be brought forward because they weren't finished, those prior approved values get moved forward into 2025. And then it also allows us to make amendments based on any operational changes that are known just from that first quarter of the year. And then, of course, the most important part of the final budget process is setting the tax revenue budget, and which corresponds to the tax rate bylaw, which is also in today's agenda package. So I'll just go through a couple changes that were made to this final draft since the Committee of the Whole meeting. So the main things in terms of requisitions is we received the designated industrial property final requisition values and the Wheatland Housing Management Body requisition values as well. Those are now the final bills, so to speak, or requisitions are in the final budget package. In addition, there was $660,000 set to the Fire Association capital budget line. That was based on that Council Resolution 2025-03-37. As a reminder to those association capital items, they actually are part of our operating budget because the association owns them. They're funded through the fire capital reserve and not by current operational values. So that was added to the budget for final approval. And then in addition, finally, just some changes to the economic development based on the hydrogen hub grant and whatnot. So those were brought in as well. So the report itself was similar to the CAL meeting. We included some of the tables here that just represented what the kind of tax revenue in total, and these are in millions, would be based on the various options or increases that were discussed at the Committee of the Whole, with the green highlight representing what the draft bylaw increase and the draft final budget currently sits at. So I will just kind of briefly touch on the capital side of things. We had a, sorry, I will go down to, here's a list of our mainly carry forward capital items and some changes that were made since the interim capital project, or capital budget, sorry. And so we have a reconciliation here just at the bottom. So the interim budget in total was the $45.7 million you see at the bottom. And then the final proposed budget is the $47.8 million. And that increase of $2 million is approximately 75% represented by carry forward. So prior year projects that just weren't completed and they're brought forward. Oh, sorry, way too fine. In terms of the operating budget, just like we have with the interim budget, we had a comprehensive package that included the detailed line item budgets, the budgets by expense and revenue and totals by department. We have all these various schedules, including the summary of the one-time projects and temporary projects for the upcoming 2025 year. Municipal Government Act review, so that's another schedule that essentially just itemizes all the stuff that are items that are required to be listed out by the MGA and the totals for each of those. And then some historical tax information as well as total revenues, a breakdown of that in the 2025 budget. And finally, we show some reserve details just to kind of give council and the public an idea. And again, these are published in our interim package and also the update in the final package of just the projection on the reserves and what kind of the target use of by kind of larger buckets those general reserves will be used for. So then just a quick update. We just provided in the report some summary reserves forecasting and stuff that we've done in the prior years. This shows a projected balance on the 2025 reserves based on, again, 60% spending, which is kind of the historical average. And then we also included some more economic kind of inflationary information, just comparing the trends of the Alberta CPI rate over the last 5 years, as well as the first table here above was the change in the average tax bill, residential tax bill. Now, again, this is the average assessed property year to year, and so it's just kind of a representative of the average house year to year, and it would not necessarily indicate one person's specific property. They'd have to check how theirs increased in terms of market value year to year. And then finally, a similar comparison of the CPI against the historical tax revenue increases that have had the last 5 years as well. So that concludes my presentation. Staff are available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council to administration? You've done
Deputy
such a-
Reeve Clausen.
Go ahead, Reeve Link.
I believe I know the answer, but if administration could just confirm the net impact of the hydrogen hub on Wheatland County budget. I believe there's a net benefit and no direct cost to our repairs, but could administration just review that, like the net financial impact?
Yes, so through the chair, the Wheatland County is a participant in the Calgary Region Hydrogen Hub that was just announced on March 21st. Administration did have knowledge of this grant prior. So this grant is a $300,000 grant to participate in kind of informing and doing some research in the region. So administration will be putting in some administrative time. We may have to hire some consultant for a little bit of stuff. And hold some open houses just related to the hydrogen topic and kind of create interest and contact existing business owners. But just for an explanation of what it is, however, those costs most likely will be less than that grant that we receive. So some of our admin time will be put towards that grant, which will be a net benefit to the county. As per an amount, probably guess 70% of it over the course of a couple of years. So maybe around $200,000 net benefit of being a part of that that grant. Thank you. Program.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Council's wishes.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Councilor Kessler.
Okay, if I'm reading this right on the reserve, since 2021, our unrestricted reserves are down 26 million, and our restricted reserves are down 20 million projected. And when I go back up the sheet, our net reserve drawdown for capital is 1.54 million for this year. if we do a 3% increase, to make it revenue neutral, we need a 8.1% increase in taxes. And also relating to that, our operating expenses is requiring a transfer from reserves of another $3.82 million. Am I reading that right?
Through the Reeve, or sorry, through the Deputy Reeve, I'll just go down to our reserve table here and just kind of walk through it briefly. That might give some clarity. So essentially, that $1.5 million drawdown we see at the top of the table here, this net of the total transfers from reserves and the total transfers to, and we've done our best to just kind of break out some of the key categories within those. And then in addition to this, when you're looking at the total accumulated designated reserves and the undesignated, the other thing to keep in mind is this is the operating budget and those transfers in and out that relate to operations, whether it's taking them out to top up reserves or bringing them in for operational purposes. And so then on the next reserve schedule, the kind of final piece of that puzzle, so to speak, is we have the operating summary here where we show the net impact on the operations, but we also recognize that there's a drawdown on the capital plan from reserves as well. And so that's what's represented here by that 25.6 approximately $1 million. It's the sum of this $11 or $12 million and $14 million on that table. And so there's in terms of you're looking at overall reserves balances, we have the operating impact, the net 1.5 million, and then we have the capital impact that's based on the plan and how those are being funded. And so that's kind of the two pieces that are driving the projected reserve balances.
Thank you. Any other questions? Council's wishes.
Sorry, so to make it reserve neutral, then we should really be looking at an 8.1% increase in is that taxes or mill rates or total revenue?
Sorry, through the chair. So in terms of the impact on the operating budget on the reserves, I'll just go back to this table here where we So this table we had provided kind of just as a reference, kind of a scale to just show the impact on the operating based on what the changes of the, or the choice on the revenue or tax revenue could be. Something to consider too when you're looking at that net reserve drawdown from the operating budget is that there's some, like we were looking at those tables or the detail in there. It includes the one-time projects and some, like say the net fire capital operating stuff for associations, things that council may not choose to fund from current year taxes. And so this table is more to provide just kind of a range or an idea of kind of what the rate or the choice in that revenue could have on the current year's net drawdown from the operating side. And hopefully that helps a little bit.
Did that answer your question, Councillor Kester?
Yeah, in a way. I just wanted council to be really aware of how much reserve money we're going through. If we keep this up, there'll be no reserves left in a couple of years. So what's the next council going to do? Yeah. And having said that, I have one other question too. In the fire capital, in funding of our fire department, I know, like Carsland and Strathmore West and Gleason and Clooney are are run by the county now. And the other fire departments, Dallin, Rosebud, Standard, Czar, Rocky Ford, they're still working off of probably a 30-year-old agreement on funding. And I don't really see, I would like to see what each department is receiving in funding. Just so we are crystal clear for our public to look at this and know how much, where their taxes are going. If it's going to this fire department or that one, are they all held equally and the same, or according to the original agreement? And I would really like to see that and get some pressure from our fire departments out in my area. And yeah, it would be good information to share with them. I don't think it's broke out like that.
Through the chair.
Is it possible to do it? That's my question.
Sorry, through the Deputy Reeve. Yes, and we actually did have that on our work plans. One of the things we were waiting for was just kind of the completion of the audit and the 2024 final figures, and it just allows us to kind of compile that together. And so it's certainly something we have, we'll be able to provide back in terms of the fire operating report.
So administration is saying that's in the works in future discussions?
Okay, thanks for that. I'll look forward to it.
Yes, through the chair. So just to be crystal clear, Councillor Custer did make that request, I think in maybe February initially, or it could have been January. And just the time of year, just for finance, is the busiest time of year with the audit, the budget, the tax rate bylaw. So as Mr. Chazon said, that we're just, those are going to be completed today, hopefully. And then there's maybe a couple weeks of wrap-up work, maybe a week wrap-up work, so that should be prepared for council and presented in May or something like that. So
Definitely not something we can do today, but if the discussions in the works that affect the next year's budget, if the contracts are updated and agreeable, there's a whole bunch of work that has to be done, for sure. Okay. Any further questions from council?
Yeah, I'd like to thank staff for that. I'm aware I asked for it before, but they didn't make a motion, so I was just checking to see if you're able to do it or if we need extra help, whatever. And I would be prepared to make a motion, but if it's in the works, I won't have to. So thanks again.
Okay.
Just a question, just on the reserves, the drawdown on the reserves. The $10 million, I believe, is the number that we're spending on bridges and culverts this year. That directly affects those reserves, right? So that if we weren't being responsible, we would actually have another $10 million so that we could just push down the road. If all we're trying to do is make our reserves look big, that would be all we'd have to do. Is that not right?
So through the chair, that is correct. So reserves ultimately are meant to be spent. We collect that money and we do need to spend it on maintaining and updating our infrastructure as required. So one way to look at it as well is that, you know, we have been investing in our infrastructure. Lots of projects we can kind of name just kind of throughout the county over the last couple of years, like the broadband, some road work around the county as well. We continue to do road work around the county, bridge files and various divisions and things like that. So yeah, that's one way to look at it. An administration could certainly push road work down or capital works down and just continue to collect funds and build up reserves, but ultimately they are meant to be spent. So we do collect that money, but it should be spent at some point. Our asset management plan actually as well, as we talk about restricted and unrestricted reserves, we do have that rough plan that was presented to committee of the whole. So I would expect in short order that administration will be bringing an RFD to council to allocate our unrestricted reserves to restricted to kind of mirror our plan as well, or kind of some rationale behind it. And of course, all transfers to reserves must be approved by council. That's in our policies as well. So that should be coming to council maybe in June or sometime around then. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Larson.
Can you hear me?
I think the point, just a sec, Glenn. I think the point that Councillor Kester was trying to make, and it's a valid one, is it's not about bridges to be built and stuff. That's what the reserve funds are for. It's when you take reserve funds so that you cannot increase taxes, you're taking money away from the reserves that are intended for that.
Councillor Kester, you had something?
Yeah, and to further to that statement, the county's always replaced culverts and bridges and done road work. And we used to have our own road building crew, which we don't have anymore. So we're always used to doing that. So in the future, we spend down these reserves that were meant to be spent, yeah, but they're meant to be replaced as also. And if you don't replace them, they hit every year, then the decision has to be made, we fund the bridges every year at 10 million extra, or we don't replace them when we close roads. So this isn't just, oh, the reserves, we have to spend them. Yeah, we got to put them back too.
Go ahead.
So I totally understand what Councillor Kester is talking about with the operating side, taking reserves out. But I appreciate that administration is pointing out that of the 1.54 net reserve drawdown on the operating side, 1.45 is considered one-time or non-recurring project costs. So I could see the rationale that that could be funded from our reserves. But so I totally get it. I think we need to be careful. We need to think about this carefully every year. But for this year, I think that it's a reasonable compromise to use that amount. So I'm happy with the 3% proposed.
Good discussion. Anything further?
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Go ahead, Reeve Link.
Just want to share some of my rationale for supporting the budget and the potentially supporting the property tax bylaw after it's presented and council discussion. One of the key considerations for me is over the last 5 years, I think we can all agree that we have lived through some, I dislike the word now, but unprecedented times that have had significant impacts on our ratepayers, both our residential ratepayers as well as our non-residential ratepayers, our community members and our businesses. And there's been significant affordability pressures. This has been a key consideration in our deliberations around setting our tax rate and balancing that with prudent investment in infrastructure as well as consideration of our reserves and future asset management planning and capital maintenance needs. We know we have, substantial capital maintenance responsibilities into the future, and we do need to be cognizant of that. And I think we have struck a good balance with what we are considering today, while also being cognizant of those affordability pressures on our residents and our businesses. So I am supportive of this. I completely agree we need to be mindful about how we're managing our reserves, but I also agree with administration that reserves are not necessarily utilized the best when they're, sitting there without a plan. So I'm incredibly grateful that we have completed the asset management work that we have to date, and then that will help guide that strategic use of those reserves in the future. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that our administration has done in terms of bringing us fulsome information about the decisions that we're making today and the process that we've walked through. It's been fulsome. There has been good debate. This is good debate today. I appreciate hearing the diverse perspectives on this and all of the counter considerations. Those are critical. So thank you to administration and thank you to council for the strong debate. I'm very grateful that we are striking a balance between affordability while also making substantial investments in our infrastructure, both new and maintaining what we have. I'm also cognizant that we have an anticipated significant growth in our assessment base over the next few years due to investment. And I know that our focus on affordability and financial stewardship does play a role in that. So thank you again to our administration.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? Go ahead.
I feel that we've, at 3, we've done a good balance. Owning a company and making a decision to move into the county, I would feel that a county that has high reserves is what going to impress me as much as being fiscally responsible. And I do feel that this medium and this increase is not only investing in our communities, but investing in business too. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we have an appointment at 10 o'clock for, what am I going to say? The words. Audit presentation, just to give you know, we got about 4 minutes left. I don't know if anybody wants to make a motion for the two. Go ahead, Councillor Priest.
I'll move that council approves the capital budget 2025 to 2029 as presented.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That is carried. Any further motions council wishes to make?
I'll move that council approves the operating budget 2025 to 2027 with a 3% increase in municipal tax revenue.
Motion's on the floor. Any discussion on the motion?
I will be supporting this, but I spent the weekend looking at the committee of the whole stuff, and I really, really appreciate the work that the administration's done on the MPI. And I think we should probably make a conscious effort to follow that going forward. It's a sort of a made in the county solution, or an idea of what inflationary rates we're facing. So I will support this 3%, but I think going forward that I believe that administration should continue working on the MPI, and I think that we should be maybe following it. So thank you for the work on that. It really makes a lot of sense now that I've had a chance to dig into it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'll ask for a recorded vote.
Recorded vote is asked for and will be provided. Do I have to read out every vote after? Yes.
You should. We'll record it in the minutes and on the.
Fair enough. Any further discussion before I call the question? I'm calling the question. That is carried. In favor is Councillor Bayer, Deputy Reeve Claassen, Reeve Link, Councillor Eichert, Councillor Priest. Against is Councillor Kester and Councillor Larson. And that is carried. We thank you very much. We have a 10 o'clock appointment. Are they here? Or do we 5-minute break? We'll have a 5-minute break for everybody to set up. We will resume at 10:05. Welcome back. We're resuming council meeting today. We're at a number 4.2, our appointment with our MNP representative, Cameron Larocque. And go ahead.
Thank you. Hopefully everybody can hear me.
You should speak louder because there's some people that are on.
Okay. I will try to talk loud so it fills the room and fills that. Hopefully it's not too loud. So yes, thanks Scott. My name is Cameron Larocque. Some of you probably recognize me from years before. It's been quite a few years that I've been coming out here. So really appreciate that. So today I'm just here to present the 2024 audit. So we'll be going through our audit findings. a brief run through of the consolidated financial statements. I'll take any questions from council as well as they come up. So feel free to interrupt me, or you can wait till after. I'll also pause for any sections that we think we need to discuss. Any questions? So the order that's in your package is a little bit backwards because I'm going to start with the audit findings first and then move to the financial statements just because I think it flows a bit better. So this is your 2024 audit findings, our report to council that we do every year. Essentially, the first page just says, thanks to council for appointing MNP as the auditors. This report's intended to summarize the information of our audit and any key points. I'll roll through the table of contents and I'll skip right to the engagement status. So engagement status of the audit essentially is the audit is complete and we're prepared to sign off on our auditor's report on two conditions. One, we receive a signed management representation letter. Essentially, Brian and his team just sign off saying that every piece of information they gave us to the best of their knowledge was complete and accurate as possible. And then second, council's review and approval of the statements today. So once that happens, we should be able to complete and release our audit report as of April 1st, 2025, which is today. And then unless any unforeseen complications arise between now and 20 minutes from now, we expect that our independent audit report will provide what's called an unmodified opinion, so an opinion that's consistent with previous years, otherwise known as a clean audit opinion, which essentially just summarizes that nothing came to our attention that anything in the financial statements are not materially represented correctly. Okay, so the next section I'll go through here is the significant audit, accounting, and reporting matters. Essentially, it's just key areas that we need to disclose to council as required by Canadian auditing standards. So you would have received a audit service plan a few months ago from your team in writing. Essentially, it's not a formal presentation, just something as information that's provided to council, just outlining what our audit service plan is. So essentially what we plan to do, where we think the risk areas are, and what procedures we're going to perform. So there was no deviations from that audit service plan that was previously presented to you. That is what you want to see. That's a good thing. That means nothing came to our attention that had us to course correct, which you don't want to see that. You don't want to see a course correct. It means everything proceeded as good. There was no significant limitations placed on the scope and timing of our audit. So thanks to Brian and his team for that as well. Due to the inherent limitations of the audit that we do, so we do a financial statement audit. It is not a forensic audit. So it just means that we do not look at every single transaction that goes on within your books. We look at a sample of transactions to form our audit conclusion. So while our audit cannot be relied upon to detect all instances of fraud, there was no instances of fraud or suspected fraud that came to our attention during the course of our audit. Also, nothing came to our attention that would lead us to believe there's any non-compliance with laws and regulations. And then no significant matters arose during the course of our audit in connection with any of the related parties of the county. So your related parties would be your commissions, your non-for-profit organizations you support, etc. With respect to internal controls, so an audit process that we focus on in a financial statement audit is understanding the controls and processes that are in place. So we take a cradle to grave approach in our audit. So essentially, to give you a visualization of what that might look like, if say someone at the front desk was to receive a check for payment, how does it go from that front desk person's hand all the way to finance and into your bank and then finally into your books so that it's reported on your financial statements? So we look at every key control during that process, and what we're looking for is any key controls that may not be working appropriately or potentially are not as efficient as they should be. Once we identify those, if there's any improvements or recommendations that we can make to management, we'll put that in what's called our management letter and disclose that to management. So we don't do a control audit per se, but we do gain an understanding and walk those controls through. So while our review of controls is not sufficient to express an audit opinion on them, there was no significant deficiencies that we noticed in your internal controls. You have very strong processes in place, very strong controls in place, and they are working as intended. We'd also like to formally acknowledge the cooperation and assistance we received from management and staff. There was no significant matters discussed with them that we would need to bring to your attention. So the control thing is a good segue into this. So our significant differences. So this would be any proposed adjustments or any proposed differences that we noted within the financial statements. So in years past, there's not really been anything. And this year there was one item noted, but also this speaks to the processes and controls that you have in place because it actually was caught and rectified by management as soon as the issue was noted. And essentially the issue was there was a correction required with your GST filings. So there was just a GST filing in Q2. that need to be corrected. And upon the reconciliation process that management does at year end, that discrepancy was noted and subsequently fixed in Q1 of 2025. Lastly, I have to speak about materiality. So materiality is a concept that we use in our financial statements. Essentially, materiality is what we consider the threshold for allowable cumulative error within your financial statements. So if council was to make a large decision about investing in a project, hiring new staff, taking on something new, for example, what is the dollar threshold or the percentage threshold of operations where that decision would change if the financial information in your financial statements was to change? Standard practice in any public sector organization is about 3 to 5%, depending on the size of the organization. So we use 5% of gross operating revenue, which is consistent with previous years that we used, or $1.8 million for this fiscal year. Now that $1.8 million obviously sounds like a large number. It's a large number to me personally. I'm sure it's a large number to most of us here personally, but you have to remember it's also $1.8 million on a $37 million operation. And that's just your operating revenues. That's not even your capital revenues that we're considering. And then secondly, in areas that we consider significant or very sensitive to council, so your revenues, your payroll, certain expenses, we will take this $1.8 million and we'll actually scope it down by as much as 75%. So that way we recognize the fact that there's certain areas within the financial statements which are much more sensitive and decisions are going to be made differently depending on the section that we're talking about. Okay, so that's the significant areas that I need to discuss. Any questions on any of those? Awesome. Okay, so as auditors, we also review your significant accounting policies, estimates, and financial statements disclosures, and then we comment and report back to council on those. So the accounting policies used by the county are appropriate and have been consistently applied. Accounting estimates also as well, but I wanted to highlight one change in accounting estimate that we had this year, which if you reviewed the financial statements, that you might see that in the financial statements. So over the years, we've carried what's called a site contamination liability on your balance sheet. And essentially, it is a liability that is carried on your balance sheet to recognize potential future cash that might be outflowed to remedy a site where there is some potential legal obligation for any contamination within that site. So the site we spoke about years and years for the last couple of years has been a site, I think it's just outside Strathmore. It's got some salt contamination in it. And every so often, management will get an engineering report from a professional firm to essentially assess the contamination and assess potentially the liability that the towns or that the county would have on that site. So this year there was an updated report that was made, and then also there was a legal opinion sought from the county. And between the engineering report and that legal opinion, it was determined that there was a large legal liability that was previously accrued for and previously accounted for on your balance sheet that is no longer required, due to the fact that the contamination has changed, it's lowered now, and in the belief of your legal opinion is that you will not be held to remedy this site. So as a result, we have written down this liability. So when we get to your financial statements, you'll see it. There's a large decrease in that liability on your balance sheet, which is a good thing you want to see because essentially that means you have less liabilities and higher net financial assets, which is good. And then lastly, disclosures made in the notes appear consistent, clear, and neutral. Any questions on that one? No? Awesome. Other matters, as I already talked about, we'll request certain written representations from management, just disclosing that they gave us the best and most accurate information as possible. We confirm to the council that we are independent of the county. The appendixes that I have here, I'm just going to kind of skip. If you want to have a good night's sleep, I recommend you read our audit process if you're not an accountant. One thing I will talk on, Appendix B, essentially this reads kind of like a boilerplate template, but essentially these are the areas where I discussed that $1.8 million, and we're going to scope that down, sometimes by 75%, sometimes by 50%, and sometimes by 25%, depending on the area that we're looking at. It reads that what the area is, what we think the risk is that council or the readers of the financial statement would be concerned with. On the right-hand side is the procedure that we performed as an audit procedure. So what did we do? And then our conclusion. And you'll see it's pretty standard practice. We say no material issues noted because essentially there was no material issues that we have to bring to the attention of council or that we require management to adjust on the financial statements. And you'll see here the sections are essentially management override of uncontrolled controls, inventory, your deferred revenue and your restricted contributions, so money received from government that's earmarked for specific use, Site contamination, which we already discussed a little bit, your sales of goods, your government transfers, and then your tax revenues. So those are significant areas there. Other areas that we still look at and still perform tests and still treat them as a significant area, but just not as significant in as the ones mentioned above, is your tangible capital assets, your employee future benefits, and any future commitments that you may have. And once again, that kind of boiler template response, what the risk is, what we did to address it, and then no material issues noted due to the result of the audit. That's essentially it for this report. If there's no questions here, I'll move on to the financial statements. I got to scroll up, so if you can think of a question while I have to scroll up, go right ahead.
Any questions so far from any councilors? Go ahead.
Too fast, you beat me on the scrolling. Okay, so now I'll just do a brief overview of your consolidated financial statements for December 31st, 2024. On the first page here, you'll see the management responsibility. Essentially that same thing I've been talking about where management signs off, just saying that they provide the information as best as possible. The next one is the key one here, so our auditor's report. So it's broken down into a few sections here. So the first section is what our actual opinion is. And as I mentioned, it's an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. So in our opinion, the company financial statements present fairly in all material aspects, the financial position, the results of its operations, the net financial assets and cash flows for the year in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. It just goes through what our basis for opinion is. So we follow Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. Then it goes through the responsibilities of management, so what their responsibility is, what the responsibility of you as council is. So management prepares the information, council oversees management and ensures that they adhere to your financial reporting process. Then us as auditors, we come in, we identify and assess the risk material misstatement, we obtain an understanding of controls, evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies and going concern, and then finally put that all together and provide an opinion. Municipalities do require two other disclosures that you're not going to see on regular set of financial statements, which is just your debt limit regulation and also your disclosure of salaries as well for those in council and those that are up in management. So this just states that you are in compliance and which notes you can find that information in. And you'll note this as draft just because technically it's not been approved, so it's technically still a draft format. Okay, the fun stuff, the numbers. Here we go. Can I fit this all on one page? I can. Okay, so column to your left is 2024. Let's see if I can just get that there. There we go. And column to your right is 2023. So whenever I look at public sector accounting standard statements, the first thing I always want to pay attention to is your net financial assets. So that's this line right here. And your net financial assets essentially represents your liquidity because your financial assets and your liabilities are are assets or liabilities that can be transferred into cash or cash can be paid out for them. So what this net financial assets represents essentially is if you were to pay off all your debt, collect all outstanding receivables, what cash would you have left sitting in the bank? And essentially you'd have 41 million. So that's good. It is a little bit of a decrease from the previous year, as you're going to see, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's a negative thing. So we have to look at, well, what did we use our financial assets for? And essentially in the current year, there was about $20 million worth of assets purchased for your capital assets. This is roads, equipment, improvements to buildings, et cetera. We'll get into that in more detail. But essentially, so when you look at this, also have that in the back of your mind is, okay, our net financial assets went down, but our non-financial assets, so our physical assets that we have on hand actually went up. So there's that metric we got to look at there. In terms of the specifics, you can see your cash and cash equivalents as well as your portfolio investments. The two classifications there essentially just represent the easiness of liquidity. So your portfolio investments are actual investments that you have where if you wanted to use them for cash purposes and write a check, a few calls have to be made, things have to be sold, cash has to be pulled out, where cash and cash equivalents is your operating bank accounts, your bank accounts that are easily accessible. As you can see, the total of them has decreased from the previous year, but you can see on the cash flow statement, which I'll just summarize here, essentially we generated $9 million from our operations this year. We spent about $20 million in capital assets, and then we also spent about $1 million in repurchasing investments. So that's your net change in cash there. With respect to other larger items that we can discuss, essentially your tax and grants in place as taxes receivable, so these are your taxes receivable, are relatively consistent with the previous year, which is good. Your trade and other receivables also is consistent with the previous year, which is good. When you're looking at a statement of financial position or a balance sheet, you always have to remember too, this is a snapshot in time. So it's going to look different on January 1st, and this would have looked different on December 30th. So some of this stuff is a cutoff issue. With respect to your inventory held for resale, you'll notice there's no change there. And essentially what this represents is your unserviced lots, for the Lakes of Muirfield. So until those get serviced, I believe, or until there's maybe a push to sell those, I might see this balance stay the same again next year. I'm not sure. I think it'll just depend on what's planned this year. And then the rest, you'll see your loans receivable and debt charges recoverable have decreased as you've received payments in accordance with those agreements. With respect to your liabilities, you'll see that your accounts payable has gone down by about 2 million. When looking at the details, there's not one big account that accounts for this. It's kind of accumulation of accounts that have been paid off over time. And don't forget, like I said, this is a snapshot in time. So January 1st, your accounts payable balance is going to look different. December 30th, your accounts payable balance is going to look different, just depending on what invoices have been received and what checks have been written or EFTs have been processed. With respect to your employee benefits obligations, this increased slightly just due to vacation accruals and wage accruals. Your deferred revenue, you'll see that's a large jump there. And essentially the large jump is related to capital grants. These capital grants are LGFF grants and CBBF grants. These grants, while it says deferred revenue, it's cash in the door that you have. And all it is a timing mechanism. So we have not yet spent those dollars on the projects that they're earmarked for. So deferred revenue, especially when it comes to capital revenue, will fluctuate quite a bit year over year, depending on where you're at in your project life cycle. And then the one I will draw attention to is that provision for reclamation. So I've already spoke about this. That's that site contamination liability. You'll see we've gone from 2.3 million to 300,000. And that's that write down that we spoke about after getting that updated engineering report and that updated legal opinion. With respect to your non-financial assets, you'll see that your capital assets has increased. So there's a net increase there. And essentially that net increase is 5 million, but it's $20 million of additions, less $16 million of, $21 million, less $16 million of ongoing depreciation. So even as you add assets every year, there's still ongoing depreciation of your equipment, of buildings, etc. Any questions on the balance sheet at all? Or statement of financial position?
Any questions?
Excellent.
Please proceed.
All right. I will move down now to the statement of operations. And I'll mainly touch on the revenue here just because I think there is a different schedule that shows the expenses a lot better. So for presentation purposes and how we're required by Alberta, we have to present the expenses based on a department function on your statement of operations, but there is a schedule that discloses them on more of an object function. So what did we spend it on? So I'll touch on the expenses there. But essentially when we're looking at your revenues, you can see that your net property taxes increased from the previous year. Essentially this is due to your valuation of property. Your mill rate actually went down slightly when compared with the previous year, but your valuations went up. With respect to the user fees and sales of goods, we can see that dropped last year. But this goes back to that land held for resale within Muirfield. Essentially, there was a lot sold in lots, I guess. That's a bit of an alliteration there. Sold in 2023 and less so in 2024. So that pretty much accounts for most of that drop there. With respect to your investment income, obviously we know interest was still higher in 2024, but it's gradually starting to go down. And then as well, you have your marketable investments that are bonds and stuff like that that you do. With respect to your license and permits, when I dug deep on this, it's actually safety codes that is increasing this. So safety codes were a big one this year for that. And then lastly, your other revenue also increased when we look at last year by a fair amount, which is due to insurance proceeds. So all in all, we can see that our revenue as the whole increased by about 900,000. And those are kind of your big swings there. Everything else is relatively consistent with the previous year. I'll just also scroll down here just to kind of reiterate this. So we have our government transfers for capital, which comes after all your operations. And essentially this just represents the capital grants that you received this year and spent on capital items. And then as well, we have that write down, which I'm going to stop talking about because I think I've hammered that home 3 times now. All in all to say, so in line with the previous year, there was a deficiency of revenue over expenses, but you were budgeting for that from an operational perspective. And there's also, you're going to see there is going to be a note later on in the financial statements that kind of reconciles your budget back. This is due to the fact that capital items do not get really captured on that budget line item and don't really properly get captured on a statement of operations. So let's not forget we did purchase about $20 million worth of capital assets this year. And then with that, of course, the efficiency or accumulated surplus has gone down. However, it's still a very healthy number, so I wouldn't be too concerned there. I will talk about expenses at that later schedule. I'm just trying to flow everything through. Any questions on the statement of operations?
Not seeing any.
Perfect. Okay. In terms of the change in the net financial assets, I know I already talked about it, but I just wanted to highlight essentially the largest change is your acquisition of assets offset by the ongoing depreciation. Cash flow, I kind of already spoke about. This is a really great statement, I believe, if you're trying to actually see the true operations of the county. And kind of just to summarize what I already said, you have $9 million generated, sorry, $9.9 million generated from operating activities. We spent about $20 million on capital activities, and then we did some purchase of some investments as well. All right, so that's the bigger statements, but I will take us to the details here, especially for the expenses. The significant accounting policies within the notes, once again, it just kind of describes how everything works within the financial statements. Great nighttime bed reading if you need to fall asleep. And let me go to the one that I wanted to speak about in detail here. Reserves. Sorry, I know I'm jumping everywhere. The statements don't exactly flow the best. So, note 17. Which is your expenses by object. So as you recall, I said on the statement of operations, we do your expenses by department as required by Alberta and PSAS. But this expenses by object, I believe, shows how your expenses worked this year a lot better. So we can see that our expenses overall increased from 49 million to 52 million. And the big changes are in a couple areas. So the first change we'll talk about is your salary and wages. So there was your natural increase there, but the increase was also offset by outsourcing some of your utility work to a third-party person. And because of that, you can see that your contract services has actually gone up as well. So some of that change has been captured there. As well as outsourcing utilities, there was some overall inflation as well that was expected with all your vendors, as of course, the last couple of years inflation has been high, but finally we're coming down. With respect to materials and goods, the main culprit here is the management software project that went on where a third party was brought in to help upgrade the management kind of document software from my understanding. And there was some costs associated with that, as well as general increases to fuel costs, oil costs, asphalt costs, supply costs. So also inflation there. With respect to your depreciation on assets, you'll see this is that 60 million we talk about. Anytime you have a large capital addition in any year, you can expect this depreciation to go up. And then as you stop adding so many assets, this will decrease, but I don't expect that to ever happen to the county. I always expect pretty healthy capital acquisitions. So this depreciation amount should either stay the same or go up year over year, I would expect. With respect to your gain on disposal of assets, there was some equipment this year sold at some auctions. And essentially, this is just represents the gain that you got. So essentially, the cash that you got versus what was sitting as the value on your books. So our value of our asset less any depreciation that we've booked into it. Any other questions on the expenses?
Not seeing any.
Awesome. Okay. I will just keep scrolling down here. So all the notes are really good for describing anything that's within the balance sheet or on the income statement. You'll see the note reference. So if you ever want to find out more information, that's what all the notes are really good for. I will just touch on, however, your Schedule 2, because we have talked about capital asset. It's quite a bit here. So this Schedule 2 really nicely outlines the breakdown of what acquisitions you made this year, what's still in progress, and as well as what's been disposed of this year. So there were some disposals this year of machinery, equipment, and vehicles with respect to some auction stuff that was done. And then in terms of the additions or construction in progress, from my understanding, this is either large equipment that was purchased, such as graders, et cetera, and then also roads and infrastructure associated with roads, so piping, sewer lines, et cetera. And then the brief down low kind of just shows with respect to that gain that we have. So assets, the net book value of 534 were sold for these proceeds. Therefore, we have that gain of 718. And then lastly, something new this year that we haven't done in the previous year is we've always given you this Schedule 3, which outlines the revenue and expenses by department. So if you ever want to look into an individual department, you can kind of see what's in and what's out. But we've also just added the comparative this year. So now you have the comparative. So I know it's a lot of numbers to look at, but if you ever want to take the time and put them side by side to look at what's changed, you can definitely do that. That's essentially my brief presentation on financial statements. As I said, just to reiterate, it is an unmodified clean opinion, which is excellent to see. I would like to thank Brian, Joel, and his whole team. They're always great to work with and always really collaborative with us. We really appreciate that. And it's always a good, quick turnaround for us when we need information or need to get the audit done. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, always look forward to working with Wheatland. It's always a good time of year for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Lots of information, very well covered. Council's options now. I know at a lot of boards I sit on, when you get a financial report, you have the option to go on camera, which is not a bad way to proceed. If there's anything, because this is a direct report to council, if there's anything that they feel they have to tell us, or any direct questions that we don't want public, we can do that. It's up to council if we want to. Not seeing any heads wobbling. We don't have to do it. Nothing, okay. We've done it in the past, yeah. So it's up to us. Not seeing anyone wanting to do it. So we have several motions in front of us. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accept the 2024 financial statement presentation by MNP LLP representatives as information.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. That's carried. Anything else? Go ahead.
I'll move that council approve the audited financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any questions? I will call the question. That's carried. Councillor Reichert.
I'll move that council accept the 2024 audit findings report dated December 31st, 2024 as information.
Thank you, Councillor Reichert. Any questions on the motion? I'll call the question. And that's carried. Councillor Bigger.
I'll move that council authorizes the Reeve and Deputy Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer to sign the approved December 31st, 2024 financial statements as presented.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion? I will call the question. And that's carried. Thank you very much for your presentation. Should we go back to 3.3? Do I have to move us back into?
Nope, this is just at council, no public hearing.
Okay. We'll move to item number 3.3, bylaw 2025-07, property tax rate bylaw. Welcome back.
Morning, Council. Joel from administration here. I even make auditors leave the room.
For those councillors on the line, whenever Joel comes to the podium, everybody seems to clear out except for the people that are sitting down.
Yeah, so here to just walk through the property tax rate bylaw 2025-07. And I'll just kind of quickly go through this to tie the numbers together for council. So in the bylaw itself, we set up our complete budget numbers just as was just approved. So that includes the operating and the capital for the total budgets of the $102 million shown at the top here. Then we proceed to show the breakdown between what's tax revenue funded and what's any other source of funds, whether it's reserves or grants, or that's kind of everything that's in the other bucket. And then just so that you can see how this ties together, the $43.6 million is represented by the total cumulative tax levy at the bottom of the table here. And in this table, which represents that 3% tax increase, we have the tax rates that make that, as well as the assessment data that our assessor Dennis presented last week. And that kind of calculates out to our total levies, our cumulative revenue from the general municipal perspective. So that's county use funds. And then, as I mentioned during our budget presentation, we also have all of the final requisitions in the bylaw as well. We've received the billing from the school districts and the WHMB and the designated industrial property. So all of those have been incorporated into the bylaw as well to come up to a whole total gross taxes collectible of that 43.6 or $0.7 million. And then this first page, all we do here is it's just showing a reconciliation between what the requisitions may be for the year. And in some cases, there might be an over-under collection just based on if there's assessment changes that were made during the 2024 year, say if the taxability of a certain property changes, then there's just an over-under calculation that we do year to year. And so that's just a reconciliation for all the requisition bodies that we show on this first page. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you once again. Any questions? Lots of numbers today. Council's wishes. On page 31 of the package, we have several resolutions. Go ahead.
I'll move that council approve first reading of property tax rate bylaw 2025-07.
Thank you, Councillor Priest. Any questions? I will call the question. That is carried.
I'll move that council approve second reading of bylaw 2025-07.
Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. That is carried.
I'll move that council grant permission to hold third and final reading of bylaw 2025-07.
Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? This requires unanimous consent to proceed. Everybody knows, and if there's any further information, if it gets defeated, be prepared to offer that, ask questions. I will call the question.
I have a comment. Sorry, I couldn't find the button. I will vote for permission, but I am not happy with it.
Heard. Question has been called. That's carried unanimously.
I'll move that council approve third and final reading of bylaw 2025-07.
Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion before we close this topic? Go ahead.
Recorded vote, please.
Requesting recorded vote on third and final. Granted. I will call the question. And that is carried. In favor, Councillor Bigger, Councillor Eicher, Deputy Reeve Clausen, Councillor Prees, Reeve Link. Opposed, Councillor Kester and Councillor Larson. Thank you. We'll move on to the 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, the consent agenda all the way up to 5.11. Is there anything anybody wants to pull out and discuss? Councillor Larson.
I'd like to pull out 5.10, please.
Just the council meeting minutes?
No.
Over 5.10.
Minister
Sorry,
of Seniors and Community and Social Services correspondence.
Sorry. Thank you. Got that. Anything anyone else wants to bring up? If you'd like it to make the motion to pull that out, Councillor Larson.
Thought I did. I'll move we remove item 5.10 from the consent agenda.
Okay. Everyone clear on that? Anything further? Any discussion? I'll call the question. That's carried. So we'll move on to 5.10, Minister of Services.
No, sorry, I think we need to, can I make a motion on the?
Absolutely. Oh, the rest of them? Yes, sorry. My apologies. Go ahead, Councillor
Right.
Priest.
I'll move approval of the April 1st, 2025 consent agenda as presented, excluding 5.1.0 or 5.10.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll call the question. That is carried. So we'll move on to 5.10. Is there any presentation, or does anybody wants to just bring it up so we can discuss it, or you have the floor? Councillor Larson.
I think this letter is in response to a letter that was sent to Minister Nixon regarding that some members of the council want different representation on the Wheatland Housing Management Body. Is that correct?
Through the chair, it must have been in response to a letter that was sent, yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought the public might want to know that basically we got the response, which was a very polite way to say pound sand. Just says that it's established by ministerial order and doesn't sound like we had a right to request that. Also said that when board members are appointed, they should be appointed based on the skills needed for the management body board operations. I don't know that that happened with us either. I think it was just voted on a member at large, but I just thought the public might like to know that they're not going to change that up in the government.
So just a statement made of your opinion. Okay, go ahead.
I just want to maybe refute what was just said about our member at large not being qualified. She works in the, or has worked in seniors housing, so I think she's well qualified.
Go ahead.
If you'd been listening, I never said unqualified. I read directly out of the letter what it wants.
Okay, anything further?
Deputy Reeve Clausen?
Go ahead, Reeve Link.
Yeah, I too would refute the opinions expressed. Certainly when I was contemplating the appointment, specifically the member at large, certainly did consider the skills that have been outlined by the management body in terms of what they're looking for in board members. So that was certainly a top priority in my consideration of the applicants. And just to note, I guess we are somewhat limited with considering that for council appointments just due to, I guess, the councillors who are willing to serve on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to state that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 councillors here that have sat on that board and have left for various reasons. I don't believe any of us had had a positive experience at that board. The frustrations on both sides overwhelming. It's not an easy task. From what I've seen in that board, if you're not with the majority, you're sequestered into a small area and disciplined appropriately and according to that board level. So that's my opinion, personal. Anything further? Motion to accept this information. Do we have to? We discussed it.
No, council, if council is done discussing it, they should accept the 5.10 as correspondence.
Okay.
Also move.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? Call the question. And that's carried. Move on, no business arising from consent agenda. Move on to item 7.1, Reeves report. Reeve Link.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. And my apologies for participating remotely today. My daughter had surgery yesterday and is having a rough recovery. So thank you for allowing me to participate remotely. My report is in the agenda package starting on page 210. A few things to highlight. There's some additional addendums to my report regarding Community Futures Wild Rose. We will be providing a monthly summary of each meeting, which will be attached to my reports in the future. There's also, so there's that executive summary, and then also just some information I want to highlight. Our second quadrant for Heart of Our Community project is open, and we are accepting nominations for the area that is in green on that map on page 215. I do just want to highlight that that does include the hamlet of Rosebud in Wheatland County and any businesses in that area in Rosebud or the surrounding area. So please consider nominations for those businesses to Community Futures. We've been hearing how meaningful this is for the businesses who have been nominated, and to bring attention to the importance of our small and medium-sized businesses in our communities. We had a great RMA Spring Convention. Wheatland County did bring forward 3 resolutions. Only one of those resolutions was endorsed by the membership of RMA, and that was the resolution around enhancing access to post-secondary education for rural Alberta students. I'm very grateful that that was supported. You'll also see some information regarding the Calgary Region Hydrogen Hub launch. It was a great event hosted at the CPKC facility. We were grateful that they opened up their building for us. They are currently using hydrogen in a couple of their trains and bringing an additional train online that utilizes hydrogen, doing some piloting of that. And they have clearly identified in the past that it's that network of hydrogen supply that is one of their limiting factors in utilizing hydrogen. So that's one thing that can be considered by the hub, but there's 6 focus areas that the hub will be reviewing and doing some work on. I really appreciate that we are involved in this and that this will help identify both the opportunities but also the challenges and kind of test out whether hydrogen, what the opportunity is with hydrogen and where we should be focusing this. It also helps de-risk that analysis by having this work be done by one central hub rather than, multiple individual businesses trying to do that analysis and testing out or piloting themselves. Also, the event occurred after I submitted my report, but I was pleased to represent the county and have several of my colleagues from council attend MLA Chantal de Young's presentation of the King Charles III Coronation Medal to Dexter Nelson, a Wheatland County longtime resident. And so I was thrilled to participate in that and to honor a gentleman who certainly is well deserving of that recognition and the receipt of that medal. With that, I will move the acceptance of my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Reeve Link. Any questions? I just want to say I'm happy to help and fill the role when you're away. And I think all of council is here to work with each other, participating remotely. It works quite well. We can hear everybody and we have a good system in place so we can kind of jump around if we need to, but we still fulfill our duties and keep the democratic process going forward. Nothing further, I'll call the question. And that's carried. We'll move on to 7.11, item added by Reeve Link.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Requesting consideration by council to ratify my attendance at the Calgary Region Hydrogen Hub announcement. It would be for 1 half-day per diem and mileage. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Looking for a motion. There has to be a motion to cover. Did you make the motion or you just?
She made the motion.
Sorry, clarification.
I'm not making the motion. I'll leave it in council's hands.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll move to ratify 1 half-day of per diem and mileage for Reeve Link's attendance at the Calgary Regional Hydrogen Hub launch on March 21st, 2025.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any questions? I will call the question then. That is carried. Move on to my report on page 216 in the council package. Drumheller and District Solid Waste, we're reviewing our audit plan. We are a couple years behind the audit. We had some difficulties with auditors. Several smaller organizations have seen this where the budget seemed what it was requested and what the auditors were in place was almost twice the amount. Be happy to say that we have hired MNP to carry on and bring everything up to snuff, so we're catching up quickly. And it's just something that the budget wasn't there to, and it was the same auditor that was doing Drumheller, I guess, at the same time, and they had similar issues. So it was kind of caught behind, so we were catching up there. There's nothing, out of the ordinary other than we are behind, but we are catching up fast. And I'm happy to report that we've also released 2 RFPs from Drumheller and District Solid Waste. One is for the hill work, which is the on-site contracting work. And then the other is for the waste hauling contract from the transiter bins. We have experienced in the last year quite a bit of difficulties with the existing contractor maintaining service. So we've rejigged the contract, made it a little, have some teeth to it, I would say. And it's just got released yesterday, so, and hopefully have, close it in June or July, and then would be awarded at the end of the year, so. And if there's nothing else, I'll move my report as presented. Any questions? I'll call the question. That's carried. Item number 7.3, Division 1, Council Report.
Thank you. My report is on page 221 of the package. The first thing, Wheatland and Area Surface Rights Society, AGM. Councillor Larson and I attended in place of coming to a council meeting. So thank you for council for allowing us to go. It was a great AGM. They again had lots of great presenters there, and including Minister MacIver, Chantal DeYoung, MLA, and MLA Nathan Cooper. They also had representatives from the LPRT in attendance, and they were very good at outlining some of the changes that they've already implemented in response to some of the issues that have been raised. So that is good news that they are already kind of looking at the things that are kind of broken in the system. They've also, the province has engaged MNP to study the tribunal processes, and they've created a survey for anybody who wants to complete that. Sadly, the survey is not great, but there are some sort of short answer opportunities, and I hope that people will provide that kind of feedback, because the questions are not super useful, I would say, in determining need. So, and while these are all great first steps, we still heard from Wheatland ratepayers in that meeting that there are more things that can be done. And so, following that meeting at our RMA conference, our provincial ASB representatives met with Deputy Minister Jason Hale regarding all of the ASB resolutions that we have that are current, and this is one of them. And so I provided some feedback to our South Region representative so that he could maybe bring those ideas forward in that context. I also did have a quick chance to talk to Minister MacIver, and I did talk about one of the key issues where ratepayers at the tribunal are there to present their case, but as non-lawyers, the process is it's quasi-judicial, but it's quite judicial in the fact that there is a case made and then cross-examination, but the tribunal member isn't encouraged to ask follow-up questions, and I think that's puts a person at a disadvantage given their lack of experience in that kind of a format. So I did raise those kinds of issues to a number of people, and hopefully some of those can get addressed in the future. What else do I want to say? I recently had a ratepayer, and I think maybe Councillor Kester had raised this recently too, about there used to be a carbon offset program for minimum till seeding that was discontinued in 2021. And so I just asked at RMA, I asked Minister Schultz about that, and she passed me contact information, and I did hear back from a policy analyst from the government. So like, kudos to a minister who gets you in touch with the exact right person to explain why it is that that's been discontinued. And so his response was that basically minimum till has become so widespread, almost everybody does it, that it became, their intention was to incentivize the process. And so now they feel like that has been accomplished, and they're switching their carbon offset program to other things to incent new behaviors. I did respond to them that I think it's too bad that a carbon offset can't still be provided to producers who do continue to sequester carbon. And he said, thank you for my opinion. So, yeah, it is a great, to me, it's a great success that you're able to have direct communication with those policy advisors. You don't always get what you want, but it was really gratifying to get that feedback. I guess I just want to also talk about the WRC AGM was held, and we did discuss, well, first of all, we did approve the audit that was presented there. And then we also discussed the revised bylaws and the revised unanimous shareholder agreement. Neither of those has been passed because there are still some outstanding questions about some of the wording in it. Some might be acceptable, but we are going to request further legal clarification about what some of those things mean. One of them is about having board members keep all information confidential, and I'd have to understand that better, whether that means that I can report to our council or not. I really want more clarification around that. So those will be coming back. It won't take another year before we revisit this. It will be coming back, I don't know when, but soon. We would love to get this all signed off before our next election. So that is where that stands. And that's about all I wanted to, let me see if there's anything else. ASB Summer Tour, we had a committee meeting about that, and we have determined the dates to be July 14th to the 16th, 2026. And ongoing work is continuing with that, and we're excited to see how that starts to take shape. So with that, I'll move acceptance of my report, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. Any questions on that motion?
Just a comment about carbon capture. It doesn't surprise me. I knew what the answer was. It's just typical. Seems like Alberta or farmers are we're always expected to pay. No matter how good you do, you don't get recognized. They put the tariff on auto, $2 billion. Yeah, but the West, we've taken 100% tariff on our canola, which is 3-4 times as much money in the end. And what do farmers get? We get to borrow more money, and they will stand behind it. No help whatsoever. So it's when you look at it in the big picture, it's still east and west. Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Motion's on the floor. I'll call the question. That is carried. Move on to item 7.4, Division 3 Council Report.
Yes, my report is on the server. I did miss a few listing a few meetings, the special meeting that was held, and committee of the whole. My apologies. And I was just put the dates down for the Ag Service Board tour. Exciting times. It's going to be fun. Interesting. I tried to attach the WFCSS minute meetings, but it's attached to the package, and so I'm going to ask that next time we can maybe put it separate so that we can get the approved minutes in my reports from now on. And with that, I'll move that that you accept my report for the month of March 2025.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any discussion? No questions. I will call the question. That is carried. Moving on to item number 7.5, Division 4 Council Report. Councillor Eichert.
Yeah, thank you very much. My report is on the server. I think everything has been covered. I want to bring up one of the Spring RMA, one of the resolutions, the one about forming a committee to explore a rural equivalent to the FCM, and it failed. It came pretty close. I think we're within 2 or 3%, as I remember. But it just talking to the people, and this is my anecdotal, my opinion only. It seems that the majority of the reason we couldn't get it over the line was there's still a bunch of people out there that do this job so that they can go on nice tours across Canada at taxpayers' expense. So we haven't got rid of all the pigs at the trough, but we're getting close. So having said that, I will move my report, and if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Councillor Kester. Motions on the floor. Any discussion?
Councillor Eichert.
Councillor Eichert, sorry. My apology, it was different where. Councillor Eichert. Any questions for Councillor Eichert? I'll call the question. That is carried. Move on to item number 7.6, Division 6 Council Report. Now it's Councillor Kester. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that. My report's on the server there. I just got an ad popped on my computer. There we go. I just want to explain the Wheatland Housing Management requisition this year. In reality, it's, I believe, if I've got my numbers right, 237,000, not the 448,000. That's what we are requisitioning, the 448. But some of that money was paid last year by the ratepayers, but it wasn't received by WHMB. It was for a contribution for the roof. So the roof repair was done, and it cost, we were very lucky, I think, at $510,000. It originally started from our consultant at 800,000 plus or minus, so we got it down to 500. So when we take off that requisition for the roof that the board didn't receive, but the county's going to apply it to the requisition this year, if that makes sense. So our net requisition for WHMB is $287,000. So the reason why it is lower than other years is there was an increased revenue stream from the government of Alberta last year. Our daily grant per room increased, and the LAP grant increased. So that all helps to bring our bottom number down. So it's good. We have continued and increased support from the government of Alberta is much appreciated. And to let council know, I am at the ASHA conference today. I come up Sunday and was on a tour, and yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And I'll be able to stay on the phone till noon, and then I have to go over to the ASHA conference because it's the AGM and I am a voting member. I'm here at the ASHA conference with 3 of our staff, out of scope staff, and another counselor, another board member. So there's 2 board members voted by the board to come, and 3 staff members. And we chose 5 because there's a deal, a package of 5 for the ASHA convention, and we're trying to save money there. So that's how that is. And if there's not any questions, I'll move my report. And I guess, as it says in my report too, the end of March will be in my next month's report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. And that is carried. Move on to item 7.7, Division 7 Council Report. Please go ahead, Councillor Lawerson.
Okay, I think everything's been discussed of most of the stuff, so I'll just bring up a couple of things that came up after, and I wasn't able to put it in. I've received a complaint from several people about Highway 56 and 569, which is the Dallam intersection. I don't know whether Google Maps has changed or something, but trucks are apparently turning down, going east on 569 and then realizing it's not a good road, and then they're backing out onto Highway 56, which is 100 kilometers an hour. I realize those are both numbered roads and they belong to the province. I asked the people if it would help if we asked our bylaw enforcement to come out, and they said, well, if they're sitting there at the corner, they're not going to back out onto the road. But one of them actually backed right across the 56 to do it. So I don't know whether we can send a note to the RCMP to have them look at it or whatever. I'll follow up with administration afterwards on that. I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. If you're smoking down the 56 near Dallam, keep your eyes open. And then the only other one I want to bring up is there was a letter from Environment and Protective Areas issued to the Reeve on February 3rd, 2025. It's investigation number WLEPEADCOM 3007. And it's a warning letter from them about the Carsland and Speargrass Waterworks system. And I'm just wondering why that wasn't sent out to all of council as it should have been.
So just through the chair, so administration did receive that correspondence from the Reeve. Administration did follow up with it, and it's just kind of a brief explanations in this council package on page 290.
There's information in the package.
Yes, that's correct.
There's information where?
Just on page 290 of the council package today. Not the actual correspondence, but just kind of a brief thing on the letter from EPA.
Okay, but I still have the question, why is it not procedure for that to be sent to all of council? It certainly has been in the past.
So I think with the...
Go ahead.
You can go ahead, CAO Henderson.
We did review the correspondence procedure. So if this is items like this are something that all of council wants to be circulated on, that's okay. Administration just needs to know, and it just needs to be very clear for council. So there was one, I think it was a committee of the whole that this was presented, where it's anything addressed to the Reeve may not be circulated out to all of council. Anything directed to the Reeve and council must be circulated to all of council. Anything directed to administration may be circulated to council. So I think it's just kind of a judgment call. And kind of the way administration thought of this one is that the information is coming to council. It's coming like today in a written report to council. So if that's something that council wants, it would be up to the reef to circulate that. But my general thought process was that administration received it. It's kind of an operational matter, and we did report back to council on it. So it's kind of administration's thought process. If council has other thoughts, then just needs to be brought forward by council. Thank you.
Okay, first time hearing of it, so other than what's in the information in the package. My question to you, Councillor Larson, do you have a direct line that we don't with something?
Not that I'm aware of.
How'd you get it? If we didn't get it.
How is that relevant? The letter exists.
Yeah, just curious. I know with, I got a stack of papers here I got to sign on behalf of the county. It's not something that the leaders of the organization have to sign these documents sometimes, so they do get spent back. But from these, a lot of these things are operational, and yes, we need to be aware of what's going on. So I have no problem with this being circulated on things like that. It's definitely not something that the Reeve or Deputy Reeve has an action item that we can do other than through council on a lot of these matters. So, sorry, did you move your report yet?
No, I'll move it now. I was just curious about that, but I see there's stuff on page 290. So I'll move my report as presented.
Thank you. Any questions? I will call.
Got a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have that letter in front of me. I don't know if you do or not. That's okay. But water warning letters, when I look on page 290 here, it sounds like they did something they weren't supposed to do. And I think that's a serious breach without letting I think something should be said to Rocky View Utility Corp, why they did that in the first place. I know you have to, I'm not a water person, but I'm pretty sure anything that isn't right with your water work has to be reported to the ministry ASP. And they come down and look and they determine if it's boil water or whatever. Hence, they didn't do it. We got a warning letter because of our good standing. If we had another warning letter, it could have been much more serious. So I take this quite seriously. We're here for the protection of our ratepayers, and I find that we didn't live up to that standard. And I don't know if it was our fault. We didn't know about it. I know the councillors didn't. This councillor didn't know about it. If the other councillors knew about it and didn't tell us, I find that unacceptable. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of broken here. I'm trying to put together sentences and I just garner this information. And then I hear on the auditor's report that our contracted services, and I don't know if he said water or not, is up. And I know we have a new contract with this outfit to provide water services. And I took a picture of that on my phone, and it says water supply and distribution went from $2,173,787 to $2,409,907. That's about a $300,000 cost increase. And I'd like to know, I'd like to have a breakdown of this outfit's Rocky View's, how they charge, is it per hour for work? And I'd like a breakdown how many hours they put in and what their charge rate is per hour. And we can, once I have that information, I'd be a little bit more happy, but I'm not happy with this report at all. Put a mark on our record, and the first one that I can think of that I've known about anyway since I've been a councillor. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things. Right now, there's a motion on the floor to accept the Division 7 report is information. Part of that is going to be discussed later on. I realize you may not be in attendance at the time. Staff have already have it addressed on that particular item. The third item that you suggested there, Councillor Kester, my suggestion to you would be to do a notice of motion at the next start of or prior to the next meeting, and then with everything that you want on there, and we can vote on that and get staff to create that document. We can't really do it right now off the fly. So hopefully you understand that. We're just trying to make the process fair for staff so they can prepare things other than jump into it right on the spot, so you understand.
I'll check in. I'll check in after, but when council hears this report later on, and I can't be here, and if council, we do it a lot, we ask council staff to do a report when we're visiting issues. And if council doesn't request for a report like I asked for, let me know, and then I'll do a notice of motion. But I think this is appropriate for council to ask for a report at the next meeting. If I wait for a notice of motion, then it's another meeting away. And I think our ratepayers need to know ASAP.
Fair enough. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion?
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Go ahead, Reeve Link.
I just want to thank Councillor Larson for raising the correspondence. I'd like to clarify that this matter, from my perspective, falls squarely within operational jurisdiction of our administration. It has been addressed through the appropriate internal processes and managed in accordance with our policies and procedures. Council is getting a report today. The timing obviously is a little bit delayed because we only had one council meeting in March. But the report is obviously coming to council. As council, our role is to set strategic direction and ensure oversight, which includes oversight of contraventions that were communicated by Alberta Environment. But it's not to involve ourselves in that day-to-day operation. So I think it is important that we are updated on this and that administration, I appreciate that they outlined the steps that have been taken on page 290 there to both address this issue, but also to mitigate the risks of future potential issues. When you have systems like this, there is a risk of issues. I think what is key is that we have strong processes in place. And I trust that our senior administration carry out their responsibilities professionally that they did in this case and that they have consistently done throughout my time on council. So I do appreciate the comments. In terms of correspondence, this was a paper letter, if I recall correctly, that went to administration. I simply got an email saying administration was taking care of this item, and I considered, obviously transparency and accountability are important, and I always welcome scrutiny. That is a critical part of good governance, but I do encourage us to focus on constructive conversations. These letters are, and we can clarify the process in terms of how things are disseminated to council, but I believe administration followed the policy that we had recently reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another comment.
Go ahead, Councillor Kester.
Council made a motion to accept this contract or to contract this Rocky Corporation. Council has a direct involvement with this company. That's why I'm asking for this update on the contract and see how much it is costing us now that we've had an audited statement done. I'd like to have the numbers pulled out and a report given, and we can compare it to industry or regional norms. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Thank you for that. Motion still stands on the floor from Councillor Larson to accept his council report as information. Anything further? I will call the question. That is carried. We'll move on to item number 8.1, CAO Officer Report.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 228 of your agenda package is the CAO monthly report. All monthly activities that are highlighted on that page. As always, the council resolution is on page 230 of your agenda package. Anything in yellow is deemed ongoing. Anything in green is deemed complete. If there's any questions about this report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of our CAO? Not seeing any.
I'll move that council accepts the March 2025 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you. Motions on the floor. Any discussion? I will call the question. That is carried. Second possible motion.
I'll move that council accepts the April 1st, 2025 council resolution tracker as information. And I have just a follow-up question. We received a letter from the town of Strathmore regarding 240 because that's in my division. Has that been clarified? Has everything been worked out on that? They were very concerned about some things, and I'm just wondering if that has been rectified or is in the process of being rectified?
Through the chair. So Wheatland County Administration did receive a letter from Strathmore Council's legal counsel on a voluntary basis about this project. This matter is still ongoing. However, administration is proceeding with this project as we do not have other direction. And we will be releasing the tender, I believe, on March 8th. We are providing, or sorry, April 8th. We are providing the town of Strathmore to provide input into the project that would meet our road construction standards as well. As long as they're able to meet that, they will be responsible for any costs related to the existence of that pipeline in the right-of-way of Township Road 240. So it is still ongoing, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. So you made the motion to accept the resolution tracker. Motion's on the floor. Any further questions? I'll call the question. And that is carried. Move on to 8.12.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from Administration. On page 239 of your agenda package is the Catholic School Tour Dates RFD. Unfortunately, the April 8th date that Council did select to tour the Catholic school did not work out for the administration at the Catholic school. So, and this was, of course, in response to the November 19th, 2024 presentation that was done at the Public Presentation Committee. So administration is just looking for some times and dates that will work for council. If council does also still want to schedule a tour of the new Catholic school. So some dates that administration thought that might work well for council would be May 6th, which is a council date, May 13th, which is the MPC, the Public Presentation Committee, and the Committee of the Whole, and then also May 20th. So the times of those meetings can definitely vary. The date that I thought that might be work best for of the three personally might be the May 13th meeting, which is MPC, Committee of the Whole, and the Public Presentation Committee. At this point, administration does have one meeting scheduled for the Public Presentation Committee. As council does recall, last time we had no meeting, so that meeting really did not, the meeting was canceled just because it didn't need to have one. And then also Committee of the Whole was also canceled. Committee of the Whole items can also be brought forward to council for discussion, so it might be advantageous for council to potentially schedule that for the 13th at noon and see if that works for council and see if that works for the Catholic school. Hopefully council is available on that 13th, and we will see. So that's just administration's recommendation and the conclusion of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess the first question, does council still want to have a tour?
I was going to actually raise this. I need a reminder of why we want to do this.
I believe there was a presenter here a few months back that offered a tour to us, which is the first time that I've been on council that the Catholic school has ever come to present to us. And that was a tour was offered at the time because they have a new church as well. So that was offered.
I can see why we would go to a business in, and correct me if I'm wrong, honestly, I don't mind if somebody has something other to say, but I can see going to a business in the area that contributes to our tax base and yeah, I want somebody just to remind me of why we would want to do it.
I believe also, as per the taxpayer, they can pay Catholic school taxes as well. But that's not our direct responsibility. That is the responsibility of the province, yes, for sure. Go ahead.
And I think too, we would go, or maybe even have gone to the new Wheatland Crossing School. Our ratepayers pay money for these educations and don't have a lot to say about it. So if we can go there and learn some stuff, I think it would be valuable.
Okay, thanks.
So it sounds like we interested in going. We just, staff have put forward 3 dates. I would suggest that we don't have to pick a date right now. Maybe at lunchtime or throughout the day, we could send a text or an email through to staff or to mention to them what is preferred, and they can pull it up instead of trying to waste a bunch of time here doing it. Does that work for everybody? So we don't have to accept it. Go ahead.
I think CEO Henderson had suggested May 13th would probably be the best one. So we could do that, and then if they come back with another one, we can worry about it later. That way then we're kind of done with it, and he can reach out to the school board as well. So I would move that we reach out to the Catholic School Division and see if we can do a tour on May 13th at noon of the new Catholic school and potentially the church, right? The IGA, that's what I remember it as.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I would make that motion.
Okay, fair enough. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. And that is carried. We'll move on to 8.13, Community Disability Services Professional Appreciation Week.
Yes, good morning, Council. Brian again from administration. On page 242 of your agenda package is just a declaration for the Community Disability Services Professional Appreciation Week. As Council does recall, administration did bring forward a RFD earlier in the year, just providing Council one resolution with all the declarations that they would sign throughout the year. This was the new one that was provided by a member of the public. The member of the public's email is on page 245 of your agenda package. There is a suggested resolution in the report. If there's any questions about this report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Council's wishes. Go ahead.
I'll move that council declare May 19th to the 25th, 2025 as Community Disability Services Professional Appreciation Week.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion? I will call the question. That is carried. Move on to 8.21, Corporate and Financial Services.
Good morning, Council. Corey Adamson from Administration. Here to report the Corporate and Financial Services report for March 2025. Found on page 248 of the Council package. Oh, it's already there. Perfect. Just a couple of quick updates. I did want to just sort of highlight the assessment that's going out, which this year it's going to range 21 and 20, including Clooney. They've sent out the are like the request for information forms to, I think, over 280 residents. So if you get any questions about that, it's just essentially information that they can provide the assessment, which will make the assessment a lot more efficient, and it also will help improve, I guess, the quality of information that's going to assessment. So, and of course, if any questions do come, please feel free to pass them off to the assessors as well, which should be able to answer any questions on that. The only other thing I just wanted to update really quick was just down here on the digital transformation stuff. So we have a cloud migration happening on the first weekend of May, which we're really excited about. It's taking our existing forms that we're using today and in our systems that we house on, we call them on-prem, like we house them ourselves, and that's going to move to the Laserfiche cloud service. So that's kind of the first big move we're making. And then once that's occurred, all of our forms and that we're using today will be working off this new Laserfiche cloud service. And then of course that will be the go forward for all the new forms that are being created, and quite a few of them have been created. They'll be developed and released in this cloud environment. So it's the first major step of our project, and we're really excited about it. And then lastly, just down on the final page, which is page 252, asset management. I just wanted to provide a little bit of an update from the information that was from the committee of the whole. So our fourth iteration of that asset inventory review was complete, and just a little bit of an update. Well, a little bit. It's a big update. The road network cost increase went from 97 million to 360 million. This is because of the cost estimates for us is quite a bit higher. So that adjustment was made. And so because of that, as a result, the forecasted annual capital requirement, now again, this is based on replacement costs, not after financial analysis, which should be coming, goes from 13 million per year to 18 million per year. And that concludes my report, and staff are available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions? Not seeing any. Council's wishes.
That council accepts the corporate and financial services report for March 2025 as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question. And that is carried. Move on to 8.31, Community and Development Services. Welcome.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars with Administration to provide the March 2025 Community Development Services update, which is found on page 254 of the agenda package. I'd like to highlight just one item on the report regarding the donation of the remaining decommissioned WatchGuard in-vehicle systems used by Protective Services. Following the March 4th, 2025 regular council meeting, Administration reached out to see if any additional municipalities could use the remaining WatchGuard in-vehicle systems, and the town of Sundre responded, indicating they could use the remaining 3 systems. So they've gone to the town of Sundre. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. No.
Thank you. Any questions? Council's wishes.
I'll move that council accepts the March 2025 Community and Development Services report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Call the question. And that is carried. We'll move on to 8.32, 2025 Wheatland Wind Community Benefits Fund allocations.
Good morning, Council. Dave from Administration. On page 262 of your agenda package is the RFD. It outlines the recommended contribution amounts, both on the fixed side of the program as well as the open allocation. The table shows the the groups that applied for funding and the recommended amounts determined by the Community Service Coordinator and representatives from Wheatland Wind. And I'm available for any questions. Just a reminder, there's also a scholarship portion of this for $4,000. That's why the numbers don't add up to 25,000, but that one comes later in September for council approval. So I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Council's wishes.
I move that council, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, he put his hand up. Go ahead.
I'll move that council approves the open allocation of $10,000 for the 2025 Wheatland Wind Project. Community benefit funding is recommended by the Wheatland Wind Project LP representatives and administration.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any questions, discussion? I'll call the question. That is carried. Second resolution, if anyone wants to make it. Go ahead.
I'll further move that council approves the fixed allocation of $11,000 for the 2025 Wheatland Wind Community Benefit Funding as follows. $7,000 to Wheatland Family and Community Support Services, $2,000 to Carsland School Education Programs, and $2,000 to Wheatland Crossing School.
Thank you. Another motion's on the floor. Any, go ahead.
Not having to do with this motion, but Dave, you mentioned about the scholarship, and I did look at that scholarship, and I believe it says for anybody attending a Wheatland County school can apply for that. But I know we have Wheatland County residents that attend schools outside of Wheatland County, for example, Bizano, Drumheller. And so I wondered if you might be able to take that back to the committee to see if they would revise that at all. It's just a question for the committee.
Later in that application, it does say prior to giving to Golden Hill school divisions. So I think that covers the Drumheller. I'm not sure about the Bizano. Probably doesn't. It covers Bizano or Drumheller for sure, because I did have a call about that. So it would cover a Drumheller school student as well.
So I know that on the east side, there are a number of students that do go to Bizano School, so it's just a consideration.
It would definitely cover that, so I'd have to check on the Bizano one, but. So we could look at, if that application did come in, we could definitely look at that, I think, as well, if it's a Wheatland County address.
Okay, good discussion. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. And that is carried. Move on to 8.33, appointment of Director of Emergency Management.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars with Administration, presenting a report recommending that Council appoint the Chief Administrative Officer as Director of Emergency Management. The report can be found on page 266 of the agenda package. Under the Local Authority Emergency Management Regulation, Council, as the designated local authority and Emergency Advisory Committee, is responsible for maintaining an emergency management agency to act on its behalf. As outlined in Bylaw 2024-16, Section 4.1F, Council must appoint a Director of Emergency Management, or DEM, by resolution. This role is essential for overseeing the county's emergency preparedness and response efforts. Administration is recommending that Council appoint the Chief Administrative Officer as the Director of Emergency Management for Wheatland County. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Pretty standard procedure. I believe you drew the short straw. My question would be, once we had an on-staff fire chief again, or would that role transfer over, or would that be a conflict?
Through the chair, so we're kind of just still working on our internal organization with that. So that position still exists on the org chart. At some point, we probably will refill that position. We're just trying to just sort out a few issues that we have and before hiring a new fire chief. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Council's wishes. Go ahead, Councilor Laursen.
I'll move the council approves the appointment of the Chief Administrative Officer as Director of Emergency Management for Wheatland County and therefore responsible for absolutely everything. Okay, maybe not the last part, but.
Motion's on the floor as on the screen. Any further discussion? Call the question. That is carried. Move on to 8.34, Carsland Bike Park Proposal.
Good morning, Council. Dave from Administration again. Presenting the RFD for the Carsland Bike Park Proposal. The Carsland District Community Association and Agriculture Society representatives presented a concept for the Community Bike Park Project at the May 14th, 2024 Public Presentation Committee. Since then, the volunteers have been actively gathering support for donations for the project. The Carsland District Community Association has submitted a letter of intent attached and requesting a council's approval to develop the proposed bike park on county-owned land at 205 Langdon Avenue in Carsland. The proposed bike park is approximately 80 feet by 135 feet. If council approves the Carsland community request, administration will work with them to develop a development permit application, a maintenance agreement, and pathway coordination with that new pathway going past the bike park as well as linking up the recreation facilities in the area, the rink and the hall. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilor Larson?
Just one question, mostly because I don't know what kind of bike park it is. There's a bunch of things there that the CDCAAS will be responsible for. The only question I have is what about liability in the event of someone crashes their bike if it's county-owned property? Are they assuming responsibility for that, or will the county be responsible for that?
Ultimately, the county will be responsible because it's our land. There is additional named insurer as well, so it's going to be all county insurance in the end of it.
So having said that, do we have enough insurance for that?
Thank you very much.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, because that was my concern. Okay, good enough. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, Deputy Reeve. I have to go now, so
Okay.
I won't be listening on anymore. So good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Go ahead.
I'll move that council authorize the Carsland District Community Association and Agricultural Society to construct a bike park on county-owned land at 205 Langdon Avenue and directs administration to work with the Carsland and District Community Association and Agricultural Society to establish a maintenance agreement for the bike park.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, hearing none, I'll call the question. And that is carried. Move on to 8.35, Wheatland Shores Campground Tenant Proposed Lease and Operating Agreement Extension.
Good morning, Council. Dave from Administration. On page 283 of your agenda package is the RFD for the request from the tenant to extend the operating agreement. basically just sent a letter requesting a 5-year extension from January 1st, 2028 to December, another 5-year term, December 31st to 2032. I'm available for any questions, I guess, on that. There's a few options for our council's consideration on that.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, and just one thing, I had some CIO comments in the report, but I just noticed that they didn't make it in. So I can just read out the CIO comments I had in for the reports for more of council's context, for council, sorry. While the campground is a valued amenity for those who utilize it, it is important to recognize that all county residents may, not all county residents may directly or may benefit directly from this specific site or this type of recreational service. Council may wish to consider whether to continue continued investment in this location if it aligns with the strategic priorities and represents prudent use of county funds. Additionally, this could be a decision more appropriately evaluated by the next council as part of their forthcoming strategic planning process in 2026. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an opportunity to extend the lease till new council's in?
So just through the chair, the lease doesn't expire until 2028. They're just looking for early. So council could extend it today if they wish, but just up to it's the decision of council.
Council's wishes.
I would like to use option number 3, which is defer any decision on extending the current lease and operating date until it's closer to an expiration date. And part of that reason would be it'll be a different council that'll making that decision. Something could, there could be a lot of things happening in that time frame. So I think deferring it would be the smart thing to do, in my opinion.
Any other discussion?
Just a comment. I do understand why they're trying to, it's a business, right? They're trying to plan ahead. So I would say that it would be good that that we should defer it. I agree. And, but it be discussed in the year of 2026 instead of waiting till 2028.
Good
That would
discussion.
just be a comment.
Anyone else's input?
I agree, deferring it seems like the right idea. It's pretty early on the lease, and yeah, there'd be another council potentially sitting here, so.
Anyone else? I know it's better than it was before. I have no problem deferring it. It seems really early. And it is, when you go to the site, it's very little Wheatland County residents. It's more long-term. And just a new council can review the operations and see how it is and how it benefits the residents and decide if they want to keep going with that current proposal or something different. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, it's more of a procedural question. Somebody mentioned, I forget who, push this to and have the new council address it in 2026. Do we have the authority to mandate that, or do we just defer it?
We could set a date for all from this count to bring it back.
Yeah, through the chair, you could technically put a resolution date behind it. And the problem with that, though, is that a new council is not bound by a resolution of the old council.
Right, that's what I thought, yeah.
So that would be one thing. But I think it should be hopefully kind of flushed out in the strategic planning of a new council, just to see where their priorities are.
And it's on administration's desk as a to-do item, so they will bring it back for sure.
Just one more comment, I guess, just I understand what we were saying about non-residents having the benefits of it, but I think our intention was around tourism, which is bringing people from outside of the, or potentially outside of the county in to see what we have to offer. And so I don't know that it's totally outside of our sort of strategic plan, but I do agree that a new council needs to review that to see if that's still a priority.
Go ahead.
And actually, I don't know how many and that's something the new council may want to ask, is how many Wheatland County residents take part, but they do have a day use area. So it is acceptable now to, where it wasn't before, acceptable for Wheatland County Reavers to go.
I could see something coming back in the future time where administration will have that information, kind of rough ideas on what the usage and whatnot is for us, or whoever's here. Anything further? Someone want to make a motion to direct the third option? Possibly.
I'll make the motion that we defer any decision on extending the current lease and operating agreement until it's closer to the expiration date.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call the question. And that is carried. Do we want to continue on with the last item, transportation and agriculture? We're all good that way? Okay. We'll move on to item 8.41, transportation and agriculture report.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the March 2025 Transportation and Agriculture Department report. The report begins on page 287 of the agenda, and first number of pages is a summary of some the more poignant points contained in the report, and then the following pages are more detailed tables of some of the activities for the operations and capital projects that we are engaged in, and I'm here for any questions.
Thank you. Council's questions? Councilor Larson?
So regarding the stuff on page 290 with the spear gas water treatment, so the contravention from December 20th to January 2nd, which is a pretty long time, was that due to something that the Rocky View Utility Corporation was or was not doing? I'm assuming we hadn't had this problem before.
Yeah, I would say partially. And if council wants, we can bring a more detailed report. It was due to an equipment failure. And so what was happening is that piece of equipment was throwing off an erroneous data message to the SCADA system. It's throwing off a negative number, but the SCADA system was set up that it couldn't read that properly. It was so throwing up a 0, which is actually a normal reading for that. Where that went wrong is the operator, while they should have originally in their reviews went and looked at that piece of equipment specifically to see if the meters were matching, they didn't. It was about a week later that an operator went and actually did that, discovered that the turbidity meter wasn't functioning properly, and then reported it right away to EPA. So what should have happened is that should have been detected earlier, and it wasn't. And so EPA came out and reviewed it right away. It was confirmed that the actual quality of the water was still safe for drinking throughout the process, which was fortunate. However, as mentioned and discussed earlier, as administration, we did take that very seriously and talked to RBC about it. Once we kind of had things sorted out with them in terms of the path forward and what happened, we wanted to bring the report to council to inform council about it. RBC also did take that very seriously, and we came up with an action plan for that. We are looking into replacing this equipment now as well that was faulty, and so we've moved ahead with that. But I think that gives a kind of a Coles Notes version of what happened. Right. If council wants, we can definitely bring a more fulsome report of the dates and timelines and planned actions.
Council discussion? I'd like to see a report back, and there's a reason why, because as the owners of a facility, I know that if you contract it out, you are still responsible for it. Alberta Environment Parks changed that regulation about 5-6 years ago. So ultimately the signers of that, which would be council, of those documents are held to task. So it'd be nice to see the follow-up. And I know with the process of Alberta Environment, there is a follow-up with them as well. So you've already done that work. We're not asking you to do anything else other than just giving us that updated information. And it could be in camera too, because it is a contractor. That's fine. I could totally, I have no problem having that information. I think it's good for us to see what's done. On that note, when you sit in on the news on the weekend, and I talked to our CAO Henderson about it, and City of Calgary had a wastewater release into the bow for a week, we never got any notification of that.
And through the chair, so we did find out that one staff member did get notification, but it wasn't the operator, so we've kind of updated those processes as well. So it took a while, but we finally figured out that someone got some notification, but the notification that we received was through the news.
But when you're watching
Yeah.
TV and they're like, oh, Calgary's fine, it's like, yeah, but what about everybody else downstream? We have the ability to shut off a plant if a slug of bad water goes through. There's all kinds of things, checks and processes, balances that Alberta Environment should be definitely letting us know about. Anybody downstream users, there's not just us, there's other ones all along the way. And that could, flush through to somewhere else, but especially in the wintertime, we don't have to run that plant all the time, so. So I'm hearing generally to get a report back. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Do we need a motion for that then, I would think?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll move that administration bring back a more detailed report of the incident with the Speargrass water treatment plant, with a report of what happened, what was done, how it was missed, and whatever else you think might be necessary, and maybe a review of the Rocky View Corp's activities and how it compares with other utilities, just to see that we're getting, good service out of this. And then also follow up with that the EPA's been satisfied, if that makes sense. I don't know if you got all that, Shanna, or not. No. Well, I'm an ENT.
We'll give her a
I
minute
can't
to come
repeat
up with
that.
something.
Oh, are you one too?
I just have a comment if I could.
Go ahead.
There was a comment that's never been done in the county. This has never happened, but I do remember that Rosebud had to give out drinking water because something went wrong with there too. But I mean, that was before our time, but I do remember that happening too with that area.
So we have,
So I just gotta, will that give you guys enough information based on what I said? The motion Shanna made, or wrote?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
then as long as you guys are good with it, then I'm okay with that then.
we're all clear. Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. That's carried. Anything further, or do we want to accept the rest as information? Go ahead.
I'll move we accept the rest of the report as information.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? I'll call the question. And that is carried. That brings us up to everything but the closed session, so I say we take a break for lunch. Come back at 12:45. Is that good for everyone? 12:30, is that too early? Staff got to take some time. 12:45 is good. We'll meet back at 12:45 in this room and finish up by going in camera. Is Amber on this one? So she can't hear us? Okay.
I'm here, Deputy Ruth Crossan.
Okay, we'll resume council meeting of April 1st. I'll move that the meeting go into closed session at 12:45 PM pertaining to the following: FWIPE section 16, disclosure harmful to business interests of a third party. FWIPE section 24, advice from officials. Motion on the floor. Are you able to use this eScribe? Reeve-Link.
You bet.
Okay, I will call a question on eScribe. That is carried.
I can, thank you.
Perfect. A motion on the floor to come out of closed session at 1:05 PM. I will call the question. That is carried. Motions arising from in camera.
Who do you want?
Anyone want to make a motion? Go ahead.
I'll move that council authorize the Reeve to sign a letter of support for Reconciliation Energy Transition, Inc. Ready.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion? I'll call the question. And that is carried. Any other motions?
I'll move that council approves the revised remaining security amount of $500,000 for the Route 24 truck stop development.
Thank you for the motion. Any discussion? Wait till it gets typed up here. Is it not typed? I'll call the question. And that is carried. Seeing no further business, I'll terminate this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.